Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This episode of Violet Evergarden made me cry like a baby. Get ready for an atomic bomb of feels, because this episode of Violet Evergarden is going to absolutely wreck you. After watching this episode, the first thing I did after having a very good therapeutic cry was actually call my mother, just to tell her that I loved her. This is an episode that really hit me hard. I'm lucky enough to still have both of my parents, but I was able to sympathize with the character of this episode, Anne, this young girl who unfortunately has a sick mother who is very close to passing away. I know what it's like to have a parent who is incredibly ill and weak, and there's nothing that you can do about it, and the only thing you want to do is spend more time with them, because you know that your time with them is almost up. And that's what this entire episode was about here, and it also had an ending, which might be one of the greatest endings I've ever seen from any anime episode. I mean, just wow. So let's get to the brass tacks of this episode. This one gets back to the formula, with Violet traveling to meet someone who needs her help as an auto-memory doll to write some letters, right some wrongs, and hopefully give us a nice happy ending. And that's something that I think we definitely needed after the last couple of episodes, which delved into Violet's origins, which were bloody, over-the-top, insane, and absolutely heartbreaking. And the beginning of this episode almost seems like it's going to go into that direction as well, but it ends on what might be one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen in an anime series, and like I said, it made this big dog cry, so definitely check it out. But the main story here is that Violet is traveling to the countryside to this very beautiful mansion, and she's going to write a letter for this woman who lives alone with her daughter. Her husband unfortunately passed away in the previous war, something which does seem to bother Violet for just a split second if you actually do notice it in this episode when she learns about his untimely demise. But she has to write a ton of letters over the course of a 7-day period, 1 week, and the daughter, Anne, who's the main character of this episode, is not allowed to be present when these letters are being written. Now, the first thing that I was thinking is, clearly this woman is about to die. She knows that. She's just sort of basically getting her affairs in order, saying her final goodbyes to family and friends, and arranging somewhere for her daughter to actually live. The ending of this episode is what really ties everything together, but most of this episode right here is this brutally honest portrayal of this little girl. I mean, wow. They captured everything realistic about a prepubescent child in this episode, but as precocious as Anne is, she's surprisingly smart as well, and she actually knows how to play up her cuteness in a number of different ways. And, of course, a lot of the drama comes from the fact that Anne doesn't have a lot of time to spend with her mother, and that's all she wants to do. She just wants to be acknowledged and loved by her. But since Violet has come into town, she's sort of uprooted everything and taken her mother away from her. So in many ways, Anne tries to see Violet as a surrogate, and considering that she's a little girl who plays with dolls, she's immediately enamored with Violet, as she quite literally sees her as a massive doll herself. The metaphors are strong with this episode, and it certainly works really well here, but eventually Anne begins to realize that Violet is spending so much time with her mother that she no longer gets to do that herself. And throughout the entire episode, you can see that her mother's condition is worsening, and it comes to a point at the end of the episode when Anne has a sudden outburst with her mother. And this is something that actually does surprisingly happen often. When a family member that's really close to you ends up getting sick, you actually might lash out at them in a way that you never thought that you possibly could. And it's only because you just want to elicit a human response from them that makes it seem like they still are alive. Subconsciously, that's actually what's going on with Anne here, and she begins to run off and cry over the fact that she sort of blames herself for her mother's illness, because she was a bad girl. She didn't do what her mother said all the time, and she sort of blames herself for her illness, and that and the fact that she's incredibly frustrated over the fact that she can't spend time with her mother, and she has no idea what these letters are about in the first place. It's not until Violet finally decides to actually talk Anne down a little bit, which is great because it shows that, one, her character is growing and she's starting to understand the subtleties of the human emotion, but she actually manages to bring her back, reconcile her relationship with her mother, and she returns to the post office to begin working on another project. But this is when the best part of the episode comes, because of course throughout the entire episode we're trying to learn, what are these letters for? Who are they being sent to? And we get to see through a montage sequence that a couple of years pass, the seasons go by, and unfortunately Anne's mother has passed away. Then, about a year later, she receives a letter, and it is a birthday letter from her mother. And that's when you realize that Anne's mother has been working with Violet for a week, writing birthday letters for her daughter, a daughter that she'll never be able to see grow up. And we go through a couple of different time skips, and we get to see Anne growing up, becoming 10 years old, becoming a teenager, falling in love, and starting a family. And for 50 years straight, she's going to continue to get these birthday letters from her mother. And guys, this moment just tore me up. I mean, we're talking, I had to pause the freaking show, walk off to the bathroom, take off my glasses, let it all out, wash my face, come back and finish the episode. It hit me hard in a way that only so many other anime series have actually done before. Just to name a few, the only other two anime series which have really hit me this emotionally was probably Erased and Death Parade. I don't know what it was about this episode. Maybe it was the gorgeous art direction as usual. Maybe it was the subtle storytelling. Maybe it was that amazing twist ending when we figure out that those letters are for Anne and for every birthday that she's going to have. Man, it was just perfect. And the cherry on top of the sundae, of course, is the fact that we get to see that this entire time, Violet herself has been suffering. Inside, her emotions have been torn to pieces, as over the course of the series we've gotten to see that she started to learn a little bit more about what it means to be human and express emotion, and she was holding back her tears the entire time, and when she comes back to the post office to tell everyone the story about this amazing woman who wrote letters for her daughter for 50 years, she just starts to break down right there, and that's the next moment where I had to pause the video again and go through the whole process of wiping off my face from all of the tears. Man, this was just effective in every way possible. You know, Violet Evergarden is probably not my favorite anime series. You know, it's definitely going to go to something else. But as far as, like, if I had, like, a top 10 most emotional anime episodes of something, like, this would be right there. This would be in the top 5 as far as I'm concerned. It was done with such care and great production value, and some fantastic voice acting, and such a real portrayal of what happens when a loved one is going to die. It was just amazing. So, what's the rundown on this episode of Violet Evergarden? Really, I can't praise this one enough. I mean, the production value of the series speaks for itself. Character design, art direction, atmosphere. Just like the previous episodes, this one is just soaked with it. It's just awesome, but it's really the characters and the payoff at the end of this week's episode which just completely blew me away. Especially because throughout the entire time, just like the main character, you're supposed to question, who are these letters for? What is the importance of them? Why can the daughter not be there when they're being written? And that's because they were supposed to be a surprise for her. For 50 years, a constant reminder that even though her mother is gone, her love for her will go on forever, and she'll continue to get these amazing letters until she continues her brand new family. Just a lot of the times when there's a child character in an anime series, it can get really annoying. The way that they handled Anne in this episode, though, was perfect, and the way that she played with Violet was also a lot of fun, as it was just sort of weird getting to see Violet play with a doll. It was a doll and a doll. I mean, they were trying to go for that thing the entire time. The ending when she realizes that she actually is a human and touches her face and realizes how soft it is and she kisses her. Again, that's almost a big cry moment. But it's right after that when we finally get the whole letter scene that just completely blew me away. It was done with such class, and I loved it. So, yeah, as far as anime experiences go, this is one of the greatest that I've ever had. It's not what I typically am into. I'm definitely more of an action anime guy. I'm not going to try and hide that. That's just the type of series that I like. But I can definitely see the merits in this, and the reason why this is a medium which can adapt any genre and do it with such amazing production and writing and atmosphere, and just has some imagery that will be stuck in your brain forever. Really, I'm just gushing about the episode at this point. It was a beautiful episode. 5 out of 5. Check it out, guys. You've heard my thoughts about the episode. You know clearly that I loved it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode. The ending get you like it got me? Do you think this episode stands toe-to-toe with some of the other big emotional hard hitters of the series? And what do you hope to see from the rest of Violet Evergarden? Tell me all your thoughts. Let's start a discussion in the comments section. Well, that does it for another review, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more anime reviews. I would really appreciate more input on a lot of my content, and I'd love to hear your suggestions for other videos that you guys would like to see. So thank you guys very much. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay damn down, baby.